Yes, you read that title correctly. Yep, today, as a metalhead, I'm going to be discussing about the latest release from one Kanye West called Donda. Enjoy!
I am done with metal. It has gotten me into too much trouble. I'm going to listen to this album instead. What is happening? I am having a weird tingly sensation.
So, you must be wondering, why is a metalhead like me listening to an album like this? Well, good question. Now, I am a metalhead through and through. I love the genre. I've been with the genre. I'm pretty much married to the genre at this point. We've been together for the last 12 years. However, I do like to cheat sometimes, and by meaning that I do, leave the genre sometimes. I do listen to other forms of music, and one of them is hip-hop, which has been the predominant one I've been listening to lately, for whatever reason. And I'm not gonna lie, in the past, I've also listened to hip-hop to get inspiration on how to write music, because it's so different, and when you take that stuff from another genre and bring it into metal, it creates a really sort of nice, organic, fresh sort of experience when it comes to writings. And even if you listen to my EP, link in bio, you'll notice that I do use trap beats, I use sub-drops, all elements that are very reminiscent of the genre of hip-hop. So I do quite like that genre. And Donda especially, unless you've been living under a rock, you should have heard that this album exists. I mean, the listening parties, these over-the-top, epic theatrical performances at those listening parties, or the controversy with Marilyn Manson being involved on the record, and the fact that we're not sure if the release that came out is the final version or was it released by mistake by the record label. So there's a lot of things around it, and we cannot forget as well that this album, within 24 hours of its release, charted at #1 in 130 countries. So in that sense, I think it'd be kind of dumb not to talk about this album. And for me, I'll be talking about it in a metalhead perspective, because again, I am a metalhead by heart. So if you enjoy this video, you like the fact that it's a bit different, I'm talking about a different genre, go ahead and give the video a like. And with that, my question to you is, do you listen to other genres besides metal, and what are they? Write them down below. So to kick off this review, this album is quite experimental for what it is. Granted, it does have its more mainstream sounding moments, but overall, this felt to me more like an album closer to like an underground, more of experimental hip hop scene than it was just your standard top 40 disgrace of writing music. And that is straight away with the opening track, Donda Chant. Granted, it's not really a song, but it definitely creates a mood.
Donda, 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 Donda.
If you know the backstory, pretty much the way the chant is being played is trying to be in sync with the last heartbeat of Kanye's mom, Donda, when she was dying. So already we're kicking it off with a very eerie, ominous sort of start, with a kind of a death chant in that sense. And as such, I didn't really think much of it. And then we get to the second track, Jail, which, I didn't know what to expect from it. Like, I've listened to this album like a few times now, but I remember the first time I listened to it, I was just taken aback because it was so different from what I'm used to listening to. These overly reverberated voices, the choir involved, the effects on everything. It was just something that I couldn't really describe or compare to much else I've listened to, except maybe like noise genres, like or noise rock. And that's where this sort of experimental side comes in, because it is sounding so noisy. Continues on with a track like God Breathe.
I know God breathe on this. I know God breathe on this.
It felt kind of like I was listening to like a demo for a Death Grips track. It was like, had these weird samples of jumping in and out, this very ominous beat and melody happening in the background, and this consistent repetition of the words God breathe, or God breathe on this. And as a whole package, it gave me this very sort of like harrowing like feeling, but it kept me really engaged. And speaking of engagement, this album is an hour and 48, so engagement is quite important in the sense. Following this, we also had the track Off the Grid, which one of the highlights for me amongst others.
We off the grid, this for my kid.
And now this track was sort of like a masterclass on rapping and the use of this thing I just learned about called the drill beat, where we had Kanye and Fabio, I think he's called, and playboi Carti just go in hard. It was heavy, like not the Metalhead sense of heavy, but I still thought it was heavy. And the wordplay was amazing. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just a great track. And then continuing on with that, we have the track Hurricane, which was actually the first single I heard from this album. Featured The Weeknd. I'm not gonna hide, I do like The Weeknd. I think he is an amazing vocalist. His Super Bowl performance was next level. I really enjoyed it. And when you hear the first few lines from The Weeknd play in, it sort of takes you to this like ethereal plane when listening to it. Like I felt elevated, I felt like risen up. And when he says like the lines, I can walk on water, you genuinely feel like he means that. And you almost want to like give him a hug. And then of course the line, Father hold me close, don't let me drown, with the use of the choir next to it, like that's good writing, like to create sort of that intensity. And then from that we also had guest vocalists from like Lil Baby and then Kanye as well, of course, you know, coming in later. And bookending the track we had The Weeknd once more repeating his line with a slight variation. Another huge highlight for me was also the track Moon.
We go strapping, we up. Never forget all.
Moon was the one that involved Kid Cudi. And man, when I was talking about elevation on the track Hurricane, it gets boosted even more here. It's so cosmic. I feel like I am going to the moon. It's so nice. It's so relaxing. And Kid Cudi's voice for me has always been one that I really enjoyed listening to. It has this really warmness, this timbre about it that I can't stop listening to it. And it's so relaxing. And then with these harmonies happening in the background between the artists, it just creates this very lush atmosphere that just had me hooked. And I was so annoyed that it's only about like 2 minutes long. I was like, come on, man, you could have done way longer and have been just as good. Of course, we can also talk about the meme side about this album as well, with the track Remote Control. Which, if you don't know, a YouTuber by the name Donkey did sort of like a meme video of him listening to the album before it dropped. And on one of the tracks, he played this sample of the I am the glub glub glub.
I am the glub glub gab galab. The schwabble double wobble gabble flabber blah blah blah.
You know the one. You know the fucking meme. And the fact that Kanye watched it and then went back to his album and actually put that shit in. I don't know if that's brilliance or just you're like, oh, you thought this was a meme? Well, fuck you. It's not a meme. It's in there. And even though like Remote Control wasn't one of my favorite, I still liked the writing in it, the whistling that was used, the synthesis that was used behind the vocals as well. And then ending it with that meme of a sample, I can only really sort of be like, huh, yeah, that's kind of cool. And in all honesty, I think it's kind of refreshing in an album like this where it's kind of a darker album. I mean, literally the album cover is black and it does have this dark element to it and sort of rising again. So having a moment of straight memeage is quite refreshing. Another thing to really talk about in this album is, of course, the use of gospel singing. And of course, you all know Kanye, very devout Christian. He loves the Lord. He's got plenty of tracks on here directly like talking to him, like Praise God, Lord Jesus, Pure Souls, Lord I Need You, like getting really like obvious about it. Heaven and Hell. And of course, there's the lyric as well in Off the Grid where he says, I talk to God every day. He's my bestie. So yeah, a bit of a cringe line, but it's Kanye being Kanye. And what I can say about all this gospel singing is it's something that's very much, I haven't heard much of when it comes to, you know, hip hop. You've sometimes definitely heard like choirs being used, but not like this. And this just shows like another level of just being a bit more unique and a bit more creative with your music writing. To go outside the box, take what you like, and then bring it back in and somehow try to make it all fit together. And having this sort of versatility in your writing means that an hour and 40-minute long album doesn't seem as monotonous. It doesn't seem as sluggish to get through. It feels fast-paced, energetic. And even if I don't take away anything that I could use in like metal writing, and even people who write music as well, they can take away that you can give yourself permission to be really experimental when you're writing music, and you should be fine with that. I want to talk quickly about all the features involved in this album, because there's a pantheon of features, front to back, non-stop. Some I wasn't expecting, and I'm sure you know about a couple of them. And some I wasn't expecting just for the sheer fact I haven't heard these guys in a while. Like you had The Weeknd, of course. You had Jay-Z on Jail 1, great. Of course, Playboi Carti, Fabio, Lil Durk, Lil Yachty was on here. Of course, there's dababy and Marilyn Manson. And I found this to be very reminiscent of the back in the day, like really back in the day. Start of the last decade even. Kanye put out My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which, regardless of your opinion on it, it definitely sort of exemplified all the really heavy hitters of the time in the sort of hip-hop music scene. And I feel like here he's doing very much the same. But what I really liked is the fact that Kanye was not afraid to collaborate with the next generation of hip-hop artists, because a lot of the people on this album are new guys. Well, when I say new, like last couple of years. These guys are not like been in the game for that long, maybe barring like people like Jay-Z or Kid Cudi, but like a lot of these guys are very new. I guess next I'll probably talk about the mixing behind it, because in my opinion, this is where it falls short. Now, what do I say about that? It's the fact it doesn't feel fully mixed yet. Now, that could be because it was rushed and it got dropped early, but I do see this album having a remixed version in the next, I'd say, quarter, like 3 months, because a lot of these tracks kind of sometimes feel unfinished, and sometimes the mastering as well. Like, I feel like some of these tracks don't sound like they belong on the same album, whether it be due to the dynamics of the track, just the transitioning from one to the next, and also the flow of some of these tracks going from one to the other. Because the flow, it's not quite there, and I feel like if this was like fully fleshed out, you know, given a bit more time to get really mixed, get the proper track listing done, could have this really amazing flow that goes from one track to the next, to the next, to the next, and is one big cohesive project. I even have a suspicion that the album artwork could get changed as well, like getting rid of the black. Although I do quite like the black. I mean, you can find a lot of meaning in that if you really want to look into that kind of stuff. But what I'm trying to say is that I wouldn't be surprised in, like, let's say 3 months or the next 6 months that we're going to get a completely different version of Donda that, for the most part, will probably have all the same tracks, but it might have a more up-to-date mix, could get some album artwork to join that as well. Now, to look into controversy, I guess, because there's a lot of controversy behind this. The buying out of the Mercedes Stadium, living there the whole time, the way Kanye treated his employees, I guess you could say, and of course some of the features. Like, so we'll start with the features, I guess, the dababy and Manson. Now, dababy, yeah, he said some questionable things, and but when it comes to Marilyn Manson, that was probably a bad move. And I think by now, if you know Kanye, he's very much a person who is very polarizing, bipolar in the sense. And he likes starting shit. Like, we all know the thing about Donald Trump. We all know the thing about some of the merch he's put out that has been questionable in the past. And in my opinion, I think he could have cut the dababy and Marilyn Manson stuff, because when they came on, they were on the part 2s of the tracks. And for me, all these part 2 tracks, they didn't really seem to add much more than that was already present in the first round listening to them, except for, you know, slight changes in who was singing it. But overall, the concepts were pretty much identical, and I think it just dragged out the album a bit too much. Barring maybe the last track, Jesus Lord, which was the 11.5-minute epic, but the rest I didn't see really a point in having it. And then, of course, in the listening party, having Marilyn and dababy at the stadium probably wasn't the best move, as it was just shit stirring for the sake of shit stirring. And you know what? I think he would have been better off just not doing it. And then the other main controversy behind it is the way that the employees were treated. I recently watched this Fantano video about, you know, the Pray for Mike Dean. You know what? I can't agree with this whole work ethic of like pushing yourself to the limit, you know, getting no sleep. And like I saw one of the messages saying like, worked on Pro Tools for 33 hours straight. Now, I've done grinds on like mixing or like producing, but 33 hours is kind of stupid to me. Like, it's dumb, because like everything I learned from, especially in uni doing sound engineering, is that you're ears are so sensitive and they pretty much degrade after about 3 hours of working with them, like intensely like working and doing acute listening sessions. So about after 3 hours, you're on a downhill like slope to the point where your ears are going to be your worst enemy. Your eyes as well are probably going to burn out if you're looking at a screen for 33 hours. And just working on Pro Tools, which crashes non-stop, probably is not the best software to be using for 33 hours either. You know, you don't need to push yourself to the absolute goddamn limit just for a piece of art. I mean, there's been plenty of great albums that have come out where this attitude or work ethic wasn't necessary. Like, what is it? Polyphia's New Levels, New Devils. Great fucking album. Did they push themselves to the brink of like oblivion? No. And they still put out a great album. Other examples, I mean, the Black Album is, if we're talking about Black Albums, like Metallica's The Black Album. Great album. Didn't involve like all this brutal way of work ethic, or Master of Puppets. Same thing there. And a plethora of prog albums, amazing prog albums that were created. But again, no blood, sweat, or tears. It's smart. You work smarter. You don't work harder. That's what I'm saying. Take those breaks. I guess this is for anyone who works on music or anything. Make sure you're taking breaks. But anyway, this has been a long ass video. This has been a Metalhead's review of the album Donda by one Kanye West. And with all that being said, I do like the album. I think it's a very creative, experimental album that is very unique. I can't think of any other album to compare it to because it's so out there, it's so experimental, it's so different. It has so many elements that, you know, can be familiar and so many that it doesn't. And with that, I'll be giving it an 8 out of 10. Give this video a like if you enjoy it. And my question to you earlier was, what genres of music do you listen to besides metal? So write those down below. Let's get a discussion going. You probably know now, hip-hop is my one. And of course, subscribe to keep up to date on more videos like this. I'm gonna have more reviews coming out, more laid back, more chill. And of course, reactions will be coming back as well. But besides that, thank you for watching, stay hydrated, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!
I'm fine. The best dynasty Allah I have seen the light and it showed the darkness in me. Listen, the best dynasty Allah I am reborn.